Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So I have a few bulk bins here. I use them as garage bins. I use them as holding bins. If I'm gonna be breeding or whatnot, I'll put them in here, get them nice acclimated, and then I'll bait them out and then set up my breeder bins. So lately, I've had a lot going on growing this worm farm, and I just neglected the bulk bins. So before I even check on the bulk bins, I figured let me just go ahead and have some bedding ready to go. So I'm gonna go through the process of making a little quick bedding, nothing too fancy. And as you see, this is dry cardboard. This actually came from me ordering worm chow from a couple of creators, Jane from Rocking Worms and the gardening worm lady. And I think some of this came from me ordering a couple other things too. But whenever I have this, I just look at it as free bedding. So none of this is pre-moistened. I have other cardboard that's already pre-moistened. As you see, the cocoa bricks are not moist yet. So a little fun that I have with the cocoa bricks, and I'm gonna put one right here and put the other ones there. I just like wet it a little bit just to get the water going. And this is part of the fun that I have. I don't know how many of y'all do that, but it's real fun to watch these grow. Well, I don't see too many that have the small bricks like this anyway. I buy these in bulk. It comes in a box of probably like 230 of them. And I've had them for a little minute and been using them, but if you see, it is literally growing as I'm putting the water on it. So I'll slowly put the water on it and just watch it expand and grow. I mean, come on now. Not because I'm a worm farmer don't mean I can have a little fun. So I just slowly add the water to it. And why not just go ahead and get the others going too? You saw how much bigger that one got already. That's already twice the size. Is it even visible? There you go. So I'll go ahead and get the other one going too, because I am using all of these for this. But look at that one. I think it literally triples in size by the time you get it all saturated. And the way you know it's done is that the water will start running out of it. But just so we're not gonna make this video too long on just this, let me go ahead and pause. I'll be right back. So as you notice, they got mighty tall. This one, for some reason, is not expanding as much. So we're not gonna worry about that one. Let's put them to the side. And let me give you an idea of how big it got. Look at that. So even this one can actually take a little bit more moisture. But this is why Coco Coir is good, because it does retain a lot of water. And it actually keep the cardboard separated. So now I can actually break this up. Go ahead and finish wetting it down. That little first part was just a little fun that I like to have. I guess we'll go ahead and get the little cardboard a little wet. know, typically I have this in my cement mixer, and I'll actually saturate it really good. But if you're doing it in a pinch, having a little sprayer like this will get it just as moist. And if you're mixing it with peat moss and coconut coir, this can retain enough moisture to distribute to the cardboard. So even though you didn't get to soak the cardboard, it'll be okay. And this cardboard is going to go on top anyway. So you don't really want it that saturated, because when I feed my worm chow to my worms, I normally wet the worm chow down. So, you know, I don't really need it to have too much moisture, because I need that little extra breathing room to add moisture every time I do the worm chow. The worm chow is powdery, so, you know, you want to get it wet so the microbes will start working on it. That's my little mix right there. So this cardboard is almost wet. I think I might add another gallon or two of cardboard. And then mix this all in. Look at that. That didn't take that long at all. And the reason why I use a cement mixer for the other cardboard is that I normally soak the cardboard and then have to squeeze it out. That gets really hard on my hands, and after COVID, it really affected my hands and my legs. I use these little 2-gallon buckets. So I'll get me another gallon or so. Well, I think I could go about 2 gallons. So this cardboard has been pre-moistened. It's been sitting there. And we mix all this in with the coconut coir. As you see, the coconut coir gets all in there and keeps the cardboard from sticking together. You know, I need to check to see if they have even bigger mortar bins at Home Depot or Lowe's, because I could definitely use a bigger one so I can mix up a bigger portion. But this is not bad. So now I'm gonna add a few other things, and one of the main things I like to add is some peat moss. So typically, you know, you soak peat moss first, but this is not like bedding for a new bin or anything. So I sift my peat moss right into the top, because I'm not really using a lot anyway. Like I said, this is just to add bedding to the bin, so not really a big deal. And I'll wet that down. And if you didn't know, peat moss is hydrophobic, so once it gets dry, it is hard to wet it down. So what I do, I just blend it into the cardboard. And I just really add this to give it a little extra body. I like to give them a lot of different foods because they'll end up eating the cardboard, the coconut coir, and the peat moss. So I like to give them a little something extra. Alright. Now I can add my other amendments. So I still have some Azomite. I actually bought a big 50-pound bag recently. But I've been using these little bags for a while now. So I'll add me a little Azomite. This is rock dust. This adds minerals to the bin. You know, now that I'm growing the farm, I get everything in bulk. And I even start buying this in bulk as well. This is a 5-pound bag. I just bought 20 pounds of this. So if this 5-pound bag lasted me this long, you know that 20 pounds is going to last me even longer. This adds grit. I just normally add like 1 scoop. I could actually do less and do eggshells. And I like to add a little dry molasses. You know, this is a little carbohydrates, feed the microbes. Don't have to be a lot. And then I like to add me a little biochar. This is similar to charcoal, but when you incorporate this into the worm bins, it actually holds on to all the goodness in the worm bin. Room for the microbes to grow. It's like giving the microbes a little hotel. So sometimes I do about 2 scoops, maybe 3. I just bought some in bulk as well. And then, you know, we can just wet all that down. And I'm going to incorporate it in. So this is typically how I put a little bedding together. And as far as like last minute bedding goes, if this is going to be new worms and I never had any worm castings or anything before, we can add like some manure. So I use black cow and black velvet. I sift it together. And this will be the little micro boost. So this has nice sand, and so this actually comes with grit in it. So technically, if I add this, I don't have to add any additional grit. But I don't mind having extra grit. So I might put a little 1.5 cups. And it's not a must, but this really jump starts things. And it really makes the worms happy. Because the thing about making worm bedding, the dirtier you can make it, the happier the worms are going to be. So the more microbes you can start the bedding with, the better it's going to be. So this right now is going to be some really good bedding for the worms. So now you see why I didn't really care about wetting or soaking that cardboard in the beginning. Because all of this is adding moisture to it. So it's going to start having that real nice dark color. I'm over here making a mess. I should have mixed this in one of my 14 gallons. But I wanted y'all to be able to see properly. And right now, this bedding can really get compacted, you know, in its current state. So I have a couple of things that I can add. I can add some pine shavings to this. And if I don't do pine shavings, then I'll also have rice hulls, which is like the exterior shell of rice after it's processed. So I'm gonna get me a couple of that. I buy all this stuff in bulk. And obviously you don't have to use all these items, but I like to add things like this just to keep things from getting too clumped up. This is actually a good substitute for perlite because it does add a little aeration. And you're not going to really see too many people use this. I don't think it's that common. And it's not that easy to find either. I actually found this one on the Home Depot app. You know, where they can ship it to you. You won't see it in the stores, but they can ship it to you. And it's pretty much a new item for them. Because I was searching and there were places I can get it, but you had to be local and go pick it up. So that wouldn't work for me. So when I saw Home Depot with it, I had to obviously get me some. So what's left in this bag, I can make a few batches of bedding. And then I have 3 5-gallon buckets full. All that came from this bag. So I have that put away. So now look at that. That right there is some good bedding for the worms. This is bedding pretty much any worm can appreciate. Now if I was making this for the buckets, which I have to make some after this, I got a lot of bedding to make, then I would definitely add some of the pine shavings. And the pine shavings, you know, have like bigger pieces to them. And this could really fluff the bedding up. If you can see, if you mix some of that in, it can create a lot of airspace. But in this situation, it's not really needed. Not for how I'm using this bedding. So now y'all see how I put my bedding together. Very simple. You know, majority of this is free materials. Well, I guess the cardboard is free because you have to buy the coconut coir. And you don't have to use all those things. I just, you know, I like to add variety. Because when you make bedding like this, you're giving the worms so much to eat. So even if they have a little neglect, and like in this case, you know, they have stuff to be munching on in the meantime. So I'm gonna pause, put this away, and then we'll open up this bin and do a check-in and see what a neglected bin look like. Be right back. Okay, so now that the bin is open, first thing I notice is a mango tree. So this right here was diatomaceous earth. When I first did this bin, it was outside, and a few things started to develop. So I use a diatomaceous earth to get rid of them. Look at that. There's a lot of action going on in here. And all this on top is worm castings. So these worms really needed a little extra bedding. Because as you see underneath, there's still cardboard underneath. So they technically still have food. But I could come in here and just scrape all this right off the top. And I can get my little rake Oops. Hopefully y'all can see. Let me zoom in a little bit. But it is dense in here. There's a lot of worms in here. So these worms are ready for some real good food. And that video is coming up next. I have a whole bunch of food to process. And you know what I might do? I might actually scrape all these off, put them in the bin with the worms, add the bedding back, and then put a screen down and just let them go back down into the new bedding. So that way I can speed this process up. Let me get a little gray bin here. All right, so I got a gray bin here. And I could just start scooping some of this off. So you can see the power of worm castings. This is a mango that I gave them to eat, and as you see, that mango germinated. This is why worm castings is so good for growing food. I mean, all of this is worm castings, y'all. So honestly, I can actually get worms out of this tonight and go ahead and set breeder bins. Don't even have to try to bait any worms out. There's actually enough worms right on top here to set those bins up. So I pretty much just want to get all the castings off the top, because for me this is easy harvesting right here. This is why I put plastic. Oh, look at that clitellum. Nah, that's definitely a mature worm there. Look at that clitellum. Bulging. Let's get over here too. I'm actually going to get them some better plastic. Whoa, it's a lot of worms over here too. Oh yeah, so I can do light separation and get a lot of these worms out of this bin. Look at that. They were happy up in here. Jeez. I mean, it is a lot. They just distributed all through here. Nice, fat, mature ones. Oh yeah, so I can definitely get some bins set up. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do, because it's a very high density in here. And they definitely got neglected long enough. You know, not too long, but long enough. Whichever ones wasn't mature, they definitely got the time to be matured. Look at that. If I dig down through here, very high density of worms. Oh wow, there goes the other mango seed. That one didn't germinate. Sometimes they can take a while. I love seeing those fat clitellums. Look at that. That's some fat worms there. Very mature. fluff it up a little bit here. Yeah, but it's definitely time to get some of these up out of here. Yeah, this bin has settled a lot. So I'm gonna refresh. Look at that. I could just grab balls. Handful of worms. And then I'll just use this to cover these ones up. On this side over here. Get this plastic out. Yeah, it's a lot. Even the cardboard I had in the bottom, there's a lot of castings in the bottom too. Yeah, all this could get fluffed up. Yeah, so I need to come in here and harvest this whole bin soon. Another mango seed. Yeah, it's a lot of worms in here. Get a little airflow in these little pockets. Look at that. It's kind of on the moist side in here. So when that's the case, I can actually mix in a little peat moss. Sometime when the bedding settles, it can get a little moist. So I can just mix in a little peat moss in these little areas and help to soak up some of that moisture, because it's very wet. Especially in these areas. So this is definitely aerating. And they'll forgive me for disturbing them like this. Probably could use a bit more of that peat moss too. I'm really disturbing them. They're not going to be happy. So when the bins get neglected, they can definitely settle like this and accumulate a lot of water. And it can go anaerobic. But all these worms are pretty much going to get baited out of here and go in their own 10-gallon buckets. So they won't be in here for much longer. And I have to do this to 2 more bins, identical to this one. for the most part, they were still happy in here. I saw a little climbing happening, so some of them did a little climbing, which is fine. So now that I did that, I can bring in some of that fresh bedding. Put it on top here. So this is why I made the bedding ahead of time, because I already knew that they can use a little refresher. So this bin, like I said, this is being used as a holding bin right now, so it is definitely overpopulated. But it's perfectly fine because they're not staying in here permanently. And I know they're gonna leave a lot of cocoons behind. So this is definitely gonna be a grow out bin. So we're gonna have a lot of baby worms in here. So now that I did that, I'm gonna go ahead and give them a little worm chow, because in the upcoming video, I'm gonna put my little bait bins in here, and I have some really cool bait bins. I think I could fit 4 or 5 in here, so when I do the worm chow video, well, the worm food video, because I have a lot of food to process, y'all. I had a lot of donations, and I've been keeping them in the refrigerator. Yeah, the worms have their own refrigerators. Then I'll put the food in the bait trays. And that way, when I come in here, I can just grab a whole tray out with the worms in it. And the reason why I'm putting that much worm chow is because there's a lot of worms in here. And this is the new worm chow mix. If you see my last unboxing video, you see I got some veggie powder and worm chow from Jane from Rockin' Worms. And I also got some worm chow from the Garden Worm Lady. And I mix all that worm chow in with mine. So these worms, this is the first time they have in this new batch. Definitely the first time they having some of this. So I keep my sprayer on mist. And I was talking to my cousin in Jamaica the other day, and it was really good to get back in touch. And I was talking to her about worm farming and that we could be worm cousins. You know, getting this together. So, if she watches this video to this point, you know who you are, Raquel. I'm dedicating this video to you because you're getting a little taste of what it's like to be a worm farmer. And this is literally just a taste, because this is just a small little bit of what goes into it. And on this bin, y'all, I only have 2 vent holes. And for this size bin, I think I might add another one there and another one there. So it's 4, because you don't really need a whole lot, you know, when it comes to worms. because as you see, this bin had a lot of moisture in it still, and it's been neglected. So if you get sick or anything like that, you want it to be a situation where your worms will be just fine, because they'll have enough moisture and they won't dry out. So they'll eat all that carbon inside the bin until you get back to them. And as you see, I still had cardboard, uneaten. So there's a lot of unprocessed materials still in this bin. So I like to have my bins like that. So that's why you had the plastic on there, because that plastic, kept that moisture in. But I'm going to switch from that black plastic and put some bubble wrap. I feel like the bubble wrap allows a bit more airflow. So let me grab that real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, so this is the bubble wrap right here. So this is one I started to use. So I'm going to measure some of this out. I think to about there. I think that, yep. Right, close to the next perforation. So that's probably 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 perforations. We gotta get one more probably. That same length. Because I'm gonna have to cut one of them in half. Alright. So I would lay this in the bin. I probably could have got away with 3. Well, that probably would have made it short. So that's fine right there. And if I can find my scissors, I will cut this one in half. But just for the video's sake, I'll just overlap it for now. So I'll just sit that in there, overlapped. Give it a little room on the sides. And just like that. That will keep the moisture in nice and neat. And if I want to get fancy with it, I could put some cardboard on top of that just to give it a little extra darkness. Not necessary in this case, but just know that's something that can be done. And I'm experimenting with some new bubble wrap that's insulating. So, on future videos, I'll show y'all how I decide to go about it. But I think that pretty much completes it. This is how I check in on neglected bins and what I do, to refresh and give them a new lease on life, fluff up the bin, add a little peat moss to absorb some of the moisture. I think we have a little runaway right here. Just get you back in there. So I'm gonna put the lid back on this one, and that's it, guys. Until next time, bye bye.